Like my objectification video, I'm gonna be as objective as possible without trying to inject in my opinions and things. Try to be objective as possible. So let's take a look at what is representation. So media representations are ways in which media portrays particular group, communities, experiences, ideas, or topics from a particular ideological or value perspective. Rather than examining media representations as simply reflecting or mirroring reality, we will be examining how media representations serve to represent or to actually create a new reality. Now, why would someone learn about media representation? Media representations shape adolescents' perceptions of experience, their beliefs about gender, class, and race, their assumptions about what is valued in society, and their notions of urban, suburban, and rural life. While it is true that the media representation shapes a lot of adolescents' views on a lot of things, I doubt that they also shape adolescents' views on race and gender. When I watch Tintin, for example, I don't care about whether or not the bad guys are Russians or Middle Easterns or Chinese or how there aren't a lot of women in there. I care about the bad guys because they're the bad guys. And I don't care about the women because, well, the story happens to not have a lot of women in there. I watch them and I don't care about them because I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the mystery. I enjoyed the adventure. I accept it for what it is. The question is there really a study that tells on the perspective of children on a certain character's race in a certain work of fiction? Well, according to this site, it was attempted by Children Now. They found out that primetime remains overwhelmingly white, with peoples of color appearing largely on secondary and guest roles. Whites account for 73% of the primetime population, followed by African Americans, 16%, Latinos, 4%, Asian Pacific Islander, 3%, and Native Americans, 0.2%. When asked to cast on television roles from a collection of photographs of diverse peoples, children have a very definite ideas of what a good and a bad person look like. After choosing an African American for the part of a criminal, one white boy said he just looked like the type of criminal that would probably steal or something. Children who choose Latinos for the criminal role explained it was because he looked mean or like he could kill someone. When casting a white person for the part of a police officer, one African American boy stated that he did so because he looks intelligent. I checked on the citation link and there's nothing found on the official Children Now website. That says something, doesn't it? This claim can be easily debunked by asking these simple questions. What's the name of the show? How does the African American criminal look? How does this Latino look? How does this white person look? Notice how these kids comment something about how ugly these criminals' characters looked, but never actually said of how black they are, or how Latino they are, or how white they are. This study only proves that these kids don't have any sorts of bias towards a particular race. They have a bias towards ugly faces that specific peoples have, and they happen to be a part of a minority race. This study also bizarrely implies that only African Americans and Latinos can be ugly and look mean. This is to highlight how much confirmation bias that this study has. The presumed claim is that children has bias towards minority groups as a whole, simply because they're minorities. Not only the study doesn't prove this claim, but the study only shows minority peoples that are affected by the ugly comments and present the conclusion as if it's affecting the entire minority group. So instead of relying on this non-existent research, I'm only gonna rely on my own research about the impacts of race and gender representation on peoples. What I found are loads and loads of contradictions. Hey, putting Sam Wilson as Captain America is gonna rack up the comic book sales. Well, tell that to the retailers who complain about it. On the other side of the equation, The Princess and the Frog now has an African female lead, and it's one of the best movies that Disney has ever put on, and Kaoru from Evangelion is one of the best gay villains that has ever been put on anime ever. You see, there can be two outcomes representation. Either you get successful at it, or you're not. Either you look good at it, or you're not. Now, why is that? Well, if you ask me, maybe because race, gender, and sexuality are identities, not character traits. And these ideologues think as if they are the same thing.
Listen, Senpai, I don't really care whether you guys recognize me as a boy or a girl. In my opinion, it's more important for a person to be recognized for who they are rather than for what sex they are.
Identities do not contribute in any sorts of way of the character's actual characteristic. A white person can be good, a white person can be bad, a black person can be good, a black person can be bad, a gay person can be good, a gay person can be bad. Damn you, Akira Ishida, you don't have to play polar opposite XPs. Both of these are possible with all combinations of identities, so knowing that race, gender, and sexuality don't really matter in portraying fictional characters, why are people still insisting on forcing everyone to portray them in the media when they have absolutely no impact on anything? Let's take a look at another article here on hercampus.com. According to a study by Indiana University, it was found that the representation of minorities in the media is very scarce. However, when racial minorities are placed in a role, they are often placed in a role that perpetuates racial stereotypes. This depiction of people who identify with racial minority groups is extremely harmful because it lowers self-esteem and perpetuates racial discriminations and stereotypes as well. Good for having citations on the Indiana University study, but we don't have a citation in how depictions of people who identify with minority groups is extremely harmful because it lowers self-esteem, or even how they can perpetuate discrimination and stereotypes. I need statistics on this. I don't know about you, but if people get low self-esteem by the mere fact that their race is not represented in the media, it's entirely on them. The collectivist mindset that the progressives are injecting socialism on everything to make sure that their problem is also our problem, even though their problem is pathetic beyond belief. I have no problems with people having low self-esteem. In some form of ways, I can understand why they have those, because sometimes I have low self-esteem, like a lot of people's are, but I don't whine about that because this is a problem that I have to deal with myself. And even if I have to do whine about that, the media and the internet would be the last place that I go to. I don't go out and demand Hollywood to represent my race and nationality to raise my self-esteem. That is the least effective method on doing so. And I am being objective on that. Now, let's just assume that representations of minorities do rack the sales of media entertainments. How can we properly represent minority groups on the media? Good question, because I honestly don't know. If you include gay characters in your story and they have the possibility to die equal with the main protagonist of the show and they actually did die, they're gonna get pissed. If you put a typical sassy black character stereotype, they're gonna get pissed. But when you put a stereotypical Indian, that's totally fine. If you change Wally West to a black guy, completely disregarding his family origins in the comics,
well, he's not racist.
But when you cast ScarJo as Kusanagi,
drop the Krispy Kreme Serpico! We need your help
These
here!
people in my house look like my father and my brother after 9 months or something.
Yeah, boogity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity!
I don't get these people's honestly. I cannot take representation seriously because your morality measure is pink and orange. Your standard is so completely out of this world, you're probably closer to the center of the Milky Way. Actually, they shouldn't provide any solutions because no matter what we do about these gays and trans and black and other minority races in the media, peoples are still gonna get pissed off regardless. You can't please these peoples. The only way to please these peoples is if these minorities are portrayed as Mary Sue's, godlike characters that is so perfect without any flaws whatsoever. Now I get why social justice warriors come from Tumblr. That's where they can write off in their own weird self-insert fanfics so that they can get rid of their insecurities of facing the real world. Seriously, is there a good reason, any good reason why representation should be made? A lack of representation creates a lack of opportunities and encourages marginalized youth to believe that they will never be qualified for various positions in the media, politics, students, organization, business, and etc. Simply because the way the world views their identity or identities. You know, just because something is portrayed on the TV does not reflect the world's view on those particular things on the TV. Okay? Also, there's nothing stopping you to tell these marginalized youth, hey, these TV shows don't reflect real life. Real life is like this. Real life is like that. You know, instead of changing the media to fit what you want people to know and tell this message to them, you can just, well, tell the message. Be a good parent to these marginalized youth and tell them that these peoples on TV do not represent real life. As I've said on my last video on this, censorship is the least effective way of preventing children from getting to bad stuff because they're gonna get bad stuff anyway. Parenting is the most important thing that you should do. Children are curious creatures and the right amount of parenting would direct them into a path that would make them more than what they are. Seriously. Are those the best reasons that you can tell me on why a particular race, gender, or sexuality should be represented on the media? To high up self-esteem? To make people believe that they cannot reach power? To go against this invincible oppressive system? To all of those peoples who get low self-esteem, I implore you to seek some help and go to your nearby friends and family You're gonna need it, and they'll always be there for you. To all of those peoples who get low self-esteem by seeing straight, white, able-bodied males on the media, you have a serious problem. Seek medical help immediately. You're gonna need it in a long term. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.